I'm going to talk to you today about paying for long-term care. All right, paying for long-term care. You know, it's a little bit of a magic trick, right? Nobody has really figured out how to pay for long-term care, really. Congress, has struggled with it for years. There's some options. Okay. All right, good. We got a 3%. Okay, good. So, people have struggled with this. Why? Long-term care is very expensive, right? It costs a lot of money. So nobody's really figured out how to pay for it. So what I'm going to talk to you about is what do we do now? What do we do given the situation that we have, where we don't have a system in place? I mean, we got some things. Abe is going to talk about long-term care insurance. What I'm going to talk about is basically the public option. All right, and so we'll talk about that. Kadia. Yeah. Kadia is going to talk about some residential options and services available. All right, so anyway, okay, paying for long-term care. How many people here are on Medicare, have Medicare? All right, so most of you are. Most of you are familiar with Medicare, and Medicare is great. Part A, Part B, Part C, and in Part D, there's these different options. There's a lot of medical coverage available. It pays for a lot of things, okay? One of the things that I always say in this talk is if you walk out of here and you know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, then I probably did my job, okay? So let's talk about what Medicare is. Medicare is a non-means tested program, all right? Non-means tested. They don't look at how much money you have in the bank, all right? It's non-means tested. You paid into the system. If you've paid in for 10 years, then you qualify, all right? You qualify for Medicare. Okay, as long as you paid into the system, they don't care how much money you got. That's a non-means tested program. However, it does have deductibles and co-payments, and some of that is income-based. So sometimes people correct me on this because I say, oh, it's non-means tested, but it is because the Medicare Part B deductible is based on income. So if you have an income that's higher, you have to pay more, all right? But generally, the services are covered. It's like an insurance program. You pay your deductibles and you pay your co-payments and you get the coverage, all right? And it'll cover a lot of stuff. It covers inpatient stays. Part B can cover your doctors. It can cover your medications. It covers a lot of stuff. It covers rehabilitative stays as well, all right? Rehabilitative stays, if you've had an operation and you then need to stay in a rehab facility for a limited amount of time, it will cover it. It covers up to 100 days, all right? So it will cover a rehabilitative stay. Also, you get discharged, you go home. You can potentially get some care, all right? Generally what they're called is what we call CHA services, Certified Home Health Aid Services, skilled services with a rehabilitative component. So that Medicare covers that. One thing it doesn't cover, though, is long-term care. All right, like I said, this is time limited. 100 days in a rehab place or some limited home care through a CHA agency, through a certified home health agency. It covers that, but it's limited. All right, it does not cover long-term care. It does not cover what's called custodial care. You need someone to come into the house every day, or if you need a long-term stay in a residential setting, Medicare will not cover it. So, you could, there's private pay options, but these things are very expensive, all right? Abe's gonna probably talk more about that, about how much it costs, but nursing homes are running anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 a month, okay? Home care costs about $25, $30 an hour, right? So it's expensive. It's very expensive. Yeah. So how do you pay for all this stuff? Well, it's tough. It's it's a struggle, okay? So what a lot of people turn to is Medicaid, all right? Because Medicaid is our safety net program. It's the payer of last resort, okay? Meaning that if there's nothing else to cover it, Medicaid will cover it. And Medicaid pays a lot of things. It pays for a lot of stuff. They generally, for home care, there's a managed long-term care program. There's a program of all-inclusive care. There's a continuum. There's a nursing home transition and diversion program. There's all these programs. There's a program called the Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance Program, which allows you to hire your own aide. Who could be a family member, all right? You might have seen commercials about that. There's some ads on TV about that, where you could hire your son, your daughter, to be your aide, okay? And they get paid for that. It covers adult daycare, so you can go during the day, be in a place where there's other people, there's activities and things like that. Generally, medical, this is what we call medical components, so that there's some medical care available as well. So Medicaid has all these programs. It also can cover, in certain cases, it can cover assisted living, and Kaya will talk about that. You could cover home care in adult home. If you live in an independent living facility and you get services, Medicaid could potentially pay for your aid. It does not pay for a continuing care retirement community, which is a kind of a thing where it's like an all-inclusive. It's like a package deal where you pay into it, and they take care of you, like for life. So you pay like a monthly amount. It could be that could be a lot of money, but Medicaid does generally not cover those. Okay, it does cover skilled nursing facility. It does cover nursing homes. All right. So we got this program. We got Medicaid. So that's going to pay for long-term care. So what's the problem? All right, here's the problem. Medicaid is a payer, I said it's a payer of last resort. It's the government payer of last resort. It is a means-tested program, okay? It's a means-tested program. You cannot have too much money, right? If you have too much money in the bank, you will not qualify for Medicaid, all right? Okay. Did you need a handout?
Yes.
We're all going. I'm sorry.
We're going to hand out a sheet to put down your name, email, and phone. If you're missing any handouts or want to speak with any of us afterwards, we'll have that for you, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I ran out. I thought I had enough, but we got a great crowd today. All right. So, okay. So Medicaid is a means-tested program. Medicaid will cover long-term care, but you cannot have any money. They say that you have to have no resources. You're able to qualify for Medicaid.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll talk about it. All right. So Medicaid looks at two things. They look at your income, what you have coming in monthly, and they look at your resources. All right. They look at your resources. How much do you have in the bank? Now, the income limit in 2019 is $859 a month. All right, $859 a month is how much they allow you for income. All right, pretty low. $859. Does that mean that if you have more than $859 a month, because that's not even enough to pay rent, right? I mean, that's just, it's really pretty low, right? So if you don't have $859 a month, do you not qualify for Medicaid? You can, all right? You can still qualify for Medicaid. You have to use what's called a supplemental needs trust, a pooled income trust. It's a special trust run by not-for-profit agencies, and you put what's called your excess income, anything over the 859, you can put into the pooled income trust, and that way, that money will then be available for non-medical needs. All right, non-medical needs can be used can be funded through a pooled income trust. Special trust, it's a special kind of a trust. It's exempt from Medicaid. You have to be disabled. You have to be a disabled person and of any age. A lot of supplemental needs trusts are limited to people under age 65, but the pooled income trust is available to people who are over age 65, okay? Which is why it's very commonly used to shelter income and pay household expenses, pay for food, pay for rent, all these kinds of things, all right? So you can have excess income and still qualify, but it's under certain conditions. You got to use this trust. All right. Resources. How much do they allow in resources? Well, they allow, and New York is one of the more generous states in this area. New York allows $15,450. All right, that's how much you can have in the bank. That is how much you can have in the bank. 15,000. They take all they look at all your resources, and you have to have less than 15,450. If you under a special program for managed long-term care, which is generally the home care program in New York at this point, your spouse can have up to 126,420, but the spouse cannot be looking for care. All right, this is what's called community spouse. All right, community spouse not looking for care can have up to 126,000. So if the spouse has got more than that, they can do what's called the spousal refusal, which is something that people might have heard of, where you just put a letter in and saying, I cannot support my spouse, I cannot pay for care for my spouse, so I'm refusing to make my income and resources available. You do that, and you're potentially subject to a recovery action from New York State, from the Medicaid program, which will then can undertake a spousal support action similar to child support. Okay, it'd be similar, to try to recover those costs. All right, so that's resources. Certain resources are exempt. Okay, and there's a fairly extensive list, but the main things that we're going to worry about, I think it's in my handout somewhere. Anyway, I just didn't see it here. But the main exemption that you guys have to be cognizant of are, one, retirement assets. Okay, retirement funds, qualified retirement funds, IRAs, 401ks, those are exempt. Okay. But they have to be paying out. So, like I said, everything goes in these two pots. One is income and one is resources, all right? What Medicaid will do is they'll say, all right, your retirement assets are exempt as a resource. However, you have to be taking your distributions, and if you're over age 70 and a half, you have to be taking your distributions. So as long as you're taking your required minimum distributions, that will be counted as income. All right, that's counted as income and not a resource. That's why I say that it's exempt. The principal value of the 401k is exempt. Okay. So I'm gonna, how we doing? Okay. I have a lot to cover, but I want to just do this really quickly. Okay. One thing about Medicaid. Hi, how are you? One thing about Medicaid is that there's this thing about transfers. All right. Well, people, obviously, when I say, you can only have $15,000 in the bank, what are people going to do? They start to transfer money, all right? People transfer money, that is part of financial planning these days. Financial and estate planning is transfers of money, all right? So what people do, what do they put their money in a trust, all right? They put their money in a trust. They could put their money into, they can just make outright gifts to people, okay? And you can do these transfers, and then at the end of the day, you show up at the Medicaid office, and you say, look, I have less than $15,000. Are you going to qualify? Well, yes, you will qualify, all right? You could have $1 million in the bank in July. Actually, we're in September, all right. So in July, and you transfer it all, You walk into the Medicaid office in August, and you say, I have less than $15,000, and you will qualify, all right? There are no transfer penalties for community Medicaid, okay? For community Medicaid, there are no transfer penalties, meaning that you can set up a trust, you can transfer your funds, you then qualify the following month. You don't qualify in the month that you had the money, all right? But you qualify in the following month, you can qualify for Medicaid. Okay, so they will want to look at 3 months. I'm going to keep going, I mean, okay, I'll make that a little clearer. But, okay, so they will look back 3 months, you know, but they'll see, you know, oh yeah, you transferred the money, but there are no transfer penalties for community Medicaid, okay? However,
What do you mean by community?
Community Medicaid is home care or assisted living. All right, home care or assisted living. I'm sorry, yes, I should have been clearer about that term. Community Medicaid, that means home care. That means Medicaid that you receive in the community, all right? What you will not qualify for is institutional care. All right, institutional care, which is nursing home care. For nursing home care, you will have incurred a transfer penalty, all right? A transfer penalty. And I want to talk to you a little bit. I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly because we have the other speakers here, but I want to talk a little bit about how transfer penalties work. And I really feel like I need to do this because there's a lot of misunderstanding on like how this all works, all right? And that's why if I can make this a little clearer for you guys today, you know, I think it helps in the long run. All right, so when you apply for a nursing home coverage, all right, when you apply, you say you're in the nursing home and you run out of money because it's $15,000 a month and it's too much. It's too much, all right? You can't pay for it anymore. You ran out of money, so you apply. At that time, when you apply for Medicaid and you're in a nursing home, they're going to do a 60-month look back, financial look back, all right? The agency wants to see all your financial records for the last 5 years, all right? There's 5 year, and this is, remember, you're in the nursing home and you have no money, but you gotta produce 5 years worth of records. All right, so you have 5 years worth of records. And they will look through it, they will analyze your transactions, and if they see transactions for less than fair market value, okay, transfers, I mean, you could buy something, right? You could buy a yacht, or, you know, you could have spent $1 million. I mean, that's all right, you can spend your money. What you can't do is you can't gift it, you can't transfer it, because any transfer will be considered having been done for the purpose of qualifying for Medicaid. All right, so that's the problem with transfers. All right, they will be looking for gifts, and that will be part of the 5-year record. And if there are any 5-year, if there are any transactions during that 5-year time, you set up a trust, or you gave money to your kids, they're going to say, well, you did this to qualify for Medicaid. All right, that's their assumption. You can rebut it. It's difficult. It's a little bit of a struggle. However, generally they're going to say, no, you were trying to qualify for Medicaid. It was foreseeable that you would need nursing home care. Certain things are do not count. Annuities, promissory notes, could be a loan, could be a transfer. You know, it's a little bit complicated, more than I want to get into today. All right, so like I said, I want to talk about what a transfer penalty is, all right? So, first thing you have to be is otherwise eligible for Medicaid in order to apply, all right? Otherwise eligible for Medicaid means you are in a nursing home, all right? You are in a nursing home for a long-term stay. You have less than $15,450 in assets. Okay, so you're at the Medicaid level. You don't have any money left. You only have like $15,000 left. All right. Medicare, long-term care insurance, all that stuff has to be exhausted. All right, Medicaid is a payer of last resort. They're pay last. All right, after everybody else is paid, they're going to pay. You know, and you say, I have no money, I have no more money. That's when they're going to pay. However, so you're otherwise eligible. This is otherwise eligible, except for you transferred money. All right, you transferred money. And they're going to say, well, you're otherwise eligible. You know, you fall within the resource limit. You're in the nursing home. You need the care. And, you know, but you transferred money, okay? So what are they going to do? All right, and here's where I did the math on this. So it's page 12 of my handout. So let's take this example just to show you how this works. Say you had $126,360, okay? You transferred it all. You either put it into a trust or you gave it to your kids. And you did that, you said, hold on to this money for me because I'm gonna have to qualify for Medicaid, all right? So, because I'm gonna need I don't want this money to all get spent, right, on my care. So you guys hold on to the money and, you know. So if you did that in January 2015, all right? 2015, it's like, it was a while ago, right? So it was 4 years ago. You transferred the money, you know, you said, but now you need nursing home care. It's 2019, and now you need nursing home care. So what they do is they look at it and they say, well, you know, when they do that 60-month look back, they say, oh, well, look, there's a transfer. You transferred $126,360. So, what are we going to do? They use what's called the regional rate. They calculate what the average regional rate of a nursing home is, monthly rate of a nursing home. They take that and they divide the amount transferred by this amount. Now, this amount changes every year. They set it based on some super secret study that they do of nursing homes. You know, there can be questions about whether it's accurate or not, but anyway. So the regional rate in Westchester right now is $12,636, all right, which is why I use that odd number for the transfer, just to make the math work out. So, so they use a regional rate of $12,636. They take the amount transferred, they divide it by this regional rate. In this case, $126,360 divided by $12,636 equals 10. All right? So 10. And that's what they'll say, is that you are now ineligible for nursing home coverage. We will not pay for your nursing home coverage for 10 months. 10 months. And when does that start? It starts from when you apply. All right, it's when you're otherwise eligible for Medicaid. That's when, you know, you're in the nursing home, you're applying, you have no money, and they're going to say, good, that's fine, you know. However, we're not going to pay for 10 months. All right, so that's kind of complicated. What you can do about that. There are some things that can be done, but it's a little beyond our discussion. I have limited time today. So anyway. It's very tricky. It's very tricky. It's a difficult situation because you're in a nursing home, you need this care, and you won't get covered for 10 months. So it's something to be very much aware of. Some transfers you can make are exempt, and so these are important to know about. You can always transfer money to your spouse. All right, there's no penalties for transferring to your spouse. You can transfer to a disabled child of any age. All right. You can transfer to what's called a caretaker child, all right? That's somebody who lives with you. You can transfer, not money, but you can transfer the home. You can transfer a homestead to somebody who lives with you and takes care of you, a caretaker child, for the 2 years immediately prior to your institutionalization, all right? So if you had somebody that lived with you for 2 years prior to when you went into the nursing home, you can transfer the house to them, all right? Or there also, like if it's family-owned property, you can transfer to a sibling with equity interest, as long as they're also living in the homestead. All right. Let's see. That's pretty much it. There's transfers. You can also make transfers for the sole benefit of a disabled child. I think I mentioned that already. Disabled child of any age. I talked about the supplemental needs trust, a pooled income trust, or other kind of supplemental needs trust. Though if you're under age 65, you can make that transfer.
Just a correction on the dates for number 5 and 6.
Oh, okay.
The ending would be 2020.
Correct.
And number 6.
Oh, okay.
Ending would-
Oh, you're right. I was updating my numbers and I missed that one. Thank you. Yeah, no, 2020. Right. It's 10 months from today. So yeah, it would have been 2020. There's also an issue with home equity. This is not a major issue. It comes up sometimes. There's a home equity limit for Medicaid, and that's currently $878,000. But if two people live in the home, if it's husband and wife, it would be doubled. So it could be up to like about 1.7 million. All right, that would be exempt as home equity, and but it's not. It does not count if the home is occupied by a spouse, a minor, or disabled child. So in certain situations, somebody lives alone in a house that's valued at more than $878,000. That's when you're going to have an issue. However, there are ways to reduce the equity of the home, so maybe we would counsel someone in that situation to look at a reverse mortgage or some kind of a home equity loan to reduce the home equity down to a level that would make somebody qualify. All right, and I want to leave some time for other people to talk today, so thank you very much, and I'm around if you want to ask any questions, all right? I'm sorry I ran out.
I ran out, but I'm going to pass this sheet around. If you want to
Okay.
put down your name, email, and phone, if you need any handouts or any questions, and
This will also be available on the website. I don't think I have my updated version, but now I'm going to have to fix this one thing. But last year's version is definitely on the Senior Law Day website. Okay. Okay. All right.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. My name is Katie Green, and I work at the Wartburg Nursing Home in Westchester. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Wartburg. I'm their Medicaid specialist there, and I assist with the whole financial piece of the process. We provide various services. We provide assisted living, independent living, affordable senior housing. We provide home care, as Deep mentioned. We provide nursing home care. We also provide rehab services, respite services for those, like he mentioned, you went to the hospital for a certain, whatever cause it might be, and you needed some rehab services prior to returning home. As Deep mentioned, Medicare usually covers the rehab stay. He did, in his handout, discussed 100 days, but I just wanted to point out, to add on to what you said, of those 100 days, only 20 are covered in full under Medicare. The 21st day, moving forward, it may not be the entire 100 days that you're allowed. It depends on your progress and other reasons why you can be discharged from care sooner, but of the 100 days, only the first 20 are covered in full. You might have a secondary insurance. If it covers skilled nursing, we can use that to pay for the co-pay days, and if not, there's private pay or there's Medicaid. Right now, the private rate for co-insurance days, which is the I'm sorry, the 21st day is covered at 80% under Medicare. The additional 20% would be co-pay days, which would be the secondary insurance or private pay. Long-term care insurance would not cover that co-pay day if you had it. It's usually, right now, I believe it's $170 per day for that 21st day until discharge. As far as our assisted living, we do not, there are other facilities, I think it's only 2 in Westchester or New York City area that offers Medicaid rate for assisted living. That might be wrong, right? But I believe it's only 2.
Which one's,
There's Westchester Center.
there's the, what is it, the C, the one up at, like, by Field Holy Comforter, I think, or no?
Familiar.
Yeah.
But I
So
believe it's...
There's another one, there's Crestview
Okay.
Manor too, so
Okay.
there's about 3.
There's roughly 3 in the area that will cover for assisted living. If one needed assisted living, that would Medicaid would cover. Every other facility that I'm aware of in the area is private pay for assisted living. There's home care. Wartburg also provides home care. And as Deep mentioned, home care can be covered through Medicaid based on your eligibility for Medicaid, or you might have long-term care insurance, or you can pay privately. And then we mentioned the nursing home. So nursing home, as Deep mentioned as well, is covered under Medicaid. It's based on your eligibility. Have to be mindful about your gifting and so forth with regards to Medicaid. Just to add on what he said as well, Medicaid does cover nursing home, but there is no income limit for nursing home care under Medicaid. When you're long-term in a nursing home, your total income is to be paid to the nursing home. So Medicaid pays everything up to the point of your income. You are allowed $50 per month for your personal needs, whatever that covers, and Medicaid also considers health insurance private health insurance that you're paying. The difference, everything else is paid to the nursing home because the nursing home is technically providing your total care, food, doctors, everything. So your responsibility is your income to the facility.
Like I said, the Medicaid is the payer of last resort.
Last resort.
So all your available money has got to be paid out first.
First, yes.
And then Medicaid.
And then Medicaid will pick up. If you're in the facility for rehab and the first 20 days under Medicare is you have exhausted those days, then we can apply for Medicaid, and it's also depending on your eligibility to cover those co-insurance days. That's $170 approximately per day. It's depending on your eligibility, what your funds are, and so forth. Well, I'm trying to keep my presentation short. Are you sure? I don't want to overdo it. Abe covered, not Abe, I'm sorry, Deep covered a lot of, what the Medicaid eligibility process is and what you can be, qualified for. If you have additional questions at the end of the presentation in regards to Wartburg, what we provide, and how you can go about maybe getting a tour of Wartburg. It's a beautiful facility. You can, being at Wartburg, you can get transitioned from independent living to assisted living into, if you needed nursing home care. And if you're there initially prior to nursing home level, then you get a priority as far as getting into the nursing home portion.
Where is the facility located?
It's right at the border of Pelham and Mount Vernon.
Yeah, it's a very large, it's a huge campus.
Huge facility. It's been around for more than 150 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so, sure.
General definition question. Are nursing homes / assisted living or independent living facilities required to have a percentage of beds for those who need mental health support, as it's called?
Not to my knowledge, there's not a requirement.
Okay. So some would have it and
Yeah.
some
Well,
would not.
yes, there's not. Are you familiar with?
It depends. All right. So when you're talking about mental health support, do you mean like dementia or Alzheimer's?
Sometimes
Okay.
a person will be denied because we just don't have that type of bed, and it was referred to me in that way, so just in general.
Okay. There's no requirement for a certain number of dementia rooms or whatever. Certain facilities have been building dementia wings, and so.
Wartburg we have a whole floor.
Wartburg's got it. So
Dementia patients.
So you have that for dementia patients.
Yes.
There's other issues with mental health as well, but most nursing homes are not generally equipped to handle a lot of more complicated mental health issues. But certainly with dementia, the care is different, but also the main thing is there's like a lock on the door. People can't wander, and that's extremely important for when you have dementia patients. So.
Sure.
Regarding having medical records for 5 years, most people that I know, because I'm an accountant, don't keep records for 5 years. Maybe they keep it for a month or 2 in some cases.
Financial record, not
Financial
medical.
record.
Okay.
I mean financial, right?
Yes.
Well, this is to qualify for Medicaid. So I'm just wondering, how does that work that you need these records, right?
So for me, working at Wartburg, I have contacts with different financial institutions that I'm able to work with them to obtain the last 5 years of the.
In general, they have these records and they do provide them.
Yes, the banks will. If sometimes they try to charge, but communicating with me, letting them know the reason behind requesting the documents, they'll waive that fee, and they'll forward the documents that are needed to me.
And that applies to mutual funds, brokerage firms, things like
Yes,
that?
yes.
If a person has been accepted into a nursing home from a hospital and they're working under Medicaid, how long does it take?
Medicaid has no time limit. They tell you that it can take, to my knowledge, 90 days. But I've had cases that has exceeded those 90 days well over 90 days. It can be a back and forth. It can be you submitted the application, they reviewed it, they're asking for additional information, you have to submit it. It can be, once you submit those, they review those documents, they ask for more. It can be an ongoing process. And also, it depends on each person's financial history.
Well, if the nursing homes have been given access to all the information that they were asking for, and a year later they're still looking for that person, they send a bill to the person who are in charge of the person in the nursing home.
So sometimes families are not forthcoming with information. So Medicaid has the ability to run that Social Security number and they find the information. So that can be a situation where it takes much longer. So it's good to be honest starting out, so we know where we are and what we need to do, instead of trying to withhold information and then we're in this back and forth with Medicaid with getting an approval.
Yeah, nowadays they can get this information
Yes.
from the computer
Yes.
Through a Social Security match relating to bank records, not investment. Which is still the thing that they're going to push the most on, is trying to get investment records, mutual funds, and whatever brokerage statements. But the bank records they can get.
So I've submitted an application before, and I was told this is all we have, this is it. Then I received a follow-up notice from Medicaid with about 6 other bank account numbers asking for this information. So this, it's good to be honest. Let us know where we're starting and what to do, because each case is individually based. Okay. Any other questions? So, Abe? Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks for being here. If anybody wants further information, we'll be here, or you can put your name on the handout there. My name's Abe Grunwald. I'm a specialist in long-term care insurance solutions. We have offices in Westchester and Rockland. Today's workshop is called "How do I pay for long-term care? Planning with and without long-term care insurance." Insurance is not for everybody. Deep spoke about some of the strategies and things to do. There's only 3 ways to pay for long-term care. There's no other ways than these 3. If there is, I'm happy to get educated. Out of pocket, Okay, so if I'm John Smith, 100 cents on the dollar comes out of my pocket. Number two, sit down with somebody like Deep or an elder care estate attorney and say, gee, should I do some estate planning, transfer some funds, put it in a trust? Obviously, there are pluses and minuses to doing that. And the third option is looking at insurance, if you're eligible, as a buffer for the coverage, as a buffer for the risk. Now, I'm going to talk about nursing home avoidance insurance. Who wants to be in a nursing home? I thought so. Nursing home avoidance insurance. If I can stay at home or assisted living, A, I'm going to do better mentally. That's obvious. We would all agree. And we know it's much less costly. But I have to be prudent. If I'm sitting down with this gentleman, what's your name, the accountant?
Harry.
If I'm sitting down with Harry and he says, hey, you know what? This is pretty expensive here. I know we don't want to talk about long-term care in a nursing home, but he's going to say, Abe, you have to be realistic. It could happen, right? I said it could. Hopefully not. And if it's $15,000 a month, which it is in Westchester, some places less, some more, this lady's shaking her head, she knows, I have to plan for that contingency. I'm not looking to go there, but I have to be realistic. We work too hard to accumulate what we have to put it at risk. So we're going to give you some different ideas about what you can do. By the way, by the show of hands, how many people have ever been caregivers for family or friends, either now or in the past? Wow. I usually get about half, and now it's probably about 3/4. My wife and I have been caregivers 4 times over. I know what it is. Forget what I do professionally. Okay? It impacts your life. There's no way you can have your normal routine and take care of your loved one, whether it's a spouse, a child, whatever the case may be. Impossible. Okay? So you need some assistance and help, whether it's a family member, whatever the case may be. My mom died in 1989. My dad became incapacitated in early his 80s, which was late, the 1990s, 1988, 99. My sister and I flying back and forth to Florida, back and forth. It just couldn't go on. We had to bring him up here. He was at the Hebrew Home for the Aged in Riverdale for about 3 years. I live in Westchester. She lived in the city, so it was a good place for him. But it's impossible to try to be a caregiver long distance. Very, very difficult. Okay. So a lot of us have been caregivers. Second question. How many in the room, besides myself, own long-term care coverage? Pretty good number. Usually I get about 6 or 7. We have about 50 people today, give or take. So who raised their hand back here? When did you take it out? How long ago? And why did you take it out? No, this gentleman. No. You go, then you go next, ma'am. Go ahead.
So, financial planner suggested we do Protect, and I got it about 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Okay. And besides the financial planner telling you that, was there other personal reasons that you said, hey, this makes sense in our family and the way we thought about it?
We have experience between my ex-wife and myself, long-term care for relatives.
Families. Okay. So that's what I usually hear from people, and I'll ask you in a second, ma'am, if you don't mind. They've had family experience like I have. They don't want to be a burden on the kids. They work too hard to accumulate assets. When you put that recipe together, that usually motivates somebody to get coverage. Man, what about you? How long ago did you get it, and why did you get it?
I got it around the year 2000.
Okay.
And I happened to be on vacation with friends, and one of their friends was visiting, was in insurance, and he said, most people think they need life insurance. That's what they really need is long-term care insurance. At that time, my mother was about 95.
Mm-hmm.
She just died at 105.
Wow, God bless her.
She's been in a nursing home for 5 years.
Up here?
No, in Kentucky.
Okay. I mean, you going back and forth?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yep.
Here.
Okay.
But I don't know, it rang with me that I don't want to be a burden.
Got it.
What money I put into it, I'm grateful because even though I haven't had to use it,
Great.
and I would have gone through that much.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing your experience. You know, it's that people are taking it for peace of mind, experience in the family. Okay. There's a couple handouts. If you didn't get them, don't worry about it. There's plenty here at the table. One of them is called Discover the Cost of Waiting. Why it pays to buy now. You bought it in 2000. That's great. The younger you are and the healthier you are, the lower the premium. You have to be eligible. Speak to a lot of people every week 1 out of 3 people, ladies and gentlemen, 1 out of 3 want it, can easily afford it. They do not qualify medically. You have to qualify. What does that mean? Got to be in reasonable health. I have dozens of clients who have high blood pressure, cholesterol, controlled medication, not a big deal. But if they have any type of chronic condition, not acute. Acute is heart attack, I'm in a hospital, I get better, I'm back out on my feet 6, 8, 10 months later, that's an acute kind of condition. Chronic is something that's lingering. I might need care. So different types of chronic conditions that may be going on, you may not be eligible to get coverage. Some other type of obvious conditions, hopefully none of us ever have this, is MS, Parkinson's, God forbid, there's early onset dementia, things like that. You can't get this coverage from any of the insurance companies. So the younger and healthier you are, you can qualify. So that's why I said about 1 out of 3 people are interested, they have some health issues going on. The other thing is anybody not a New York resident in this room? Okay, what's your primary residence?
South Carolina.
Okay. You split time up here, is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
With my mom.
Okay, gotcha. So New York offers some tax incentives for people who have long-term care coverage. I don't think there's anything in South Carolina, sir. I just don't know off the top of my head. But New York, it's pretty expensive for care, right? As Deep was saying, and Katia, $15,000 a month in the worst case scenario, give or take, all right? So New York said about 15, 16 years ago, we're going to give you, if you buy long-term care coverage, and hopefully everybody in this room is aware of this, about the 15 or so people raise their hand that have coverage. If you buy long-term care coverage, make sure that you speak to your accountant. I'm sure he or she did it already. If not, bring it to their attention. There is a 20% tax credit in New York State. It's very important. 20% tax credit. Harry, you know what that is. I'll explain it in English if I could, all right? Let's say my premium is $5,000 for me and my wife. I have to write that check to the insurance company. And then I sit down with my accountant, Harry, and he said, hey, I've had long-term care. And he goes, great, I'm going to pull out this form. And he fills out Form IT-249. He writes in $5,000 because Abe wrote that to the insurance company in 2018. We're doing his taxes now. What's 20% of 5,000?
1,000.
Thanks, Harry. I thought you'd be first with that. Okay, that's 1,000. I now owe $1,000 less, ladies and gentlemen, $1,000 less to New York State. Again, it's 20% of whatever the premium is. I used a round number, 5,000. So the state is giving us incentive to take ownership of our risk, potential, or exposure. Why? They don't want everybody knocking on Medicaid's door, transferring assets, sitting down with Deep, have 5 years go by, take care of me. I'm not passing judgment if that's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just giving you facts, something to work with. So hopefully everybody in the room has coverage, has been taking advantage with their accounting when they do their taxes. Any questions on that part? Yes, sir.
Genworth is just bumping up
Yes.
the rates.
Okay. So there's a lot of companies who've been in the field, and some of them have left the field. I'm going to segue right into this. So I have a lot of clients that I picked up in the late 90s, early 2000s who have coverage with me through Prudential, Genworth, Travelers, MetLife. All those companies have left the marketplace for new business. These policies cannot be canceled by law, but a lot of those companies left the marketplace. What this gentleman was saying is a lot of the companies have the ability to raise rates on individuals. They can only raise it by going to the state insurance department, presenting their case, and saying, here's the income we're taking in, here's the claims that are going out in order to sustain the health of that block of business. Let's say that group who bought in 2000, 2005, 2008. We need an increase. And some of those rates have been tremendous. 20%, 30, 40, 50%. It's a huge number. So what the state insurance department mandates is the following. I'm going to use a number again, 5,000. My premium goes up 20%. Okay, that's another 1,000. That's 6,000. Maybe now I'm retired. I don't have the same income flow when I was working. So the state insurance in all states, South Carolina, New York, wherever, they mandate that if there's an increase, the insurance company must offer the insured, the consumer, the ability to adjust the benefits downward if they want to keep the premium at the same level. By law, they can never cancel the policy, but as I said, if there are a lot of claims coming in, all the companies, yes, approach the state insurance department, present their case, and get an increase. So that's vanilla long-term care. We are limited with time. We have about 6 minutes. There are other types of plans available today in the marketplace that do have some guaranteed rates locked in. It's not your typical, what we call vanilla long-term care coverage. It's really an alternate solution. We call these hybrid or linked products. If you'd like to know more about it, please let me know. In essence, they're using a life insurance chassis, kind of what the lady said before, that financial person said maybe not life insurance for long-term care, but guess what? Now we have a life insurance chassis that it has a long-term care provision. Hypothetical, I buy $500,000 of life insurance of this specific product. It has a long-term care rider. What does that mean? If I become disabled and qualify for benefits, I'm allowed to draw down from that $500,000, typically at 2% or whatever it is. What's 2% of $500,000, Harry?
4,000.
No, 2% of $500,000.
10,000.
Okay, I know, I got you on the spot. So that's 10,000. So in that example, if I own 500, I can draw down 10 a month for my care. Let's say I drew down 100,000, and then I died. Guess what? 400,000 goes to my beneficiary. So I'm putting money into a plan that's going to come back to me or my family. Number two, I have a locked-in rate, unlike traditional long-term care, which most of you own, which I own. Yes, I have had rate increases myself. I'm not immune. Okay? Something else to think about. It doesn't mean that you guys should change what you had. You bought it years ago. I'll presume you're even in great health today, but health does change. But it's something to think about, for others here, maybe friends that and things like that. There are some other solutions out there. So we only have a few minutes. Let me touch on a couple things. We'll take some questions. There's a sheet there about tax advantages, a little different than the tax credit I mentioned. This little piece talks about comparing costs getting in. The younger you are, the healthier you are. Usually they ask me by now, hey, what does this cost? I'm 58 years old, I'm in good health. The answer is, I don't know exactly, because do you want a Chevy, a Buick, a Cadillac, or Mercedes? It doesn't mean because it's $15,000 a month in the Warburg, you have to buy $15,000 a month. In fact, I advise against it. I just don't want you to have to spend $15,000 a month. So maybe you get a plan for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. It will typically cover home care and most of your assisted living. But I don't want you to be, the John Smith, Abe Grunewald Insurance Company. Two more quick things you'll see in the handout here. One's on page 2, one's on page 7. A lot of people think, Medicare is going to take care of me. Right from the Medicare guide. Medicare supplement insurance, and health insurance you may have at work will not pay for long-term care. Will not pay. Okay? Medicare could pay 100 days in certain situations if I'm in a facility, but after the 100 days, forget about it. Page 7. Is long-term care insurance right for you? I don't know. You may want to look at this little checklist. While you might consider it, you may not. But again, it's something to look at. I think we have a few minutes. We'll throw it out to any questions. Anybody here? Yes, ma'am.
You spoke about the age. You said someone is 55, and if they're 55 and they're in poor health, can they get long-term care?
Well, we'd have to know specifically what poor health is.
Okay.
As I said, I've had many clients who've on different types of medications, depending what it is. But if there's any things in the record, such as any indication of memory loss, they're not going to get it. Okay, I don't mean like an official full-blown dementia or Alzheimer's, but certain people may have seen their doctor. I don't remember this, I don't remember that. Guess what? They make entries in the file. The insurance company's not going to take it. Or the doctor is very conservative and puts him on medication that's not an acceptable medication to the insurance company. Okay, these things happen, okay, along the way. Or I have a client with combination of conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, overweight, and a heart condition. I have clients with that recipe. It depends what it is. It's possible they may get it, but if all those items are on the high risk level and you put it together, they may not get it. Okay? Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If you get long-term health care through an insurance company, like Prudential.
Right, whoever, yep.
That's what they're offering me now. Can you use that? Can you get that tax credit?
Yes.
If you're using that?
If you're buying, in other words, you get it through some type of group or employer, is that what you mean?
No, it's an individual policy he's offering me.
You cannot buy a Prudential policy, long-term care, the vanilla long-term care policy on the market today. Not the vanilla type. You can only buy a plan that Prudential or other companies may offer that has a combination of life and long-term
Right.
care.
And
That does not offer that tax credit.
You don't get that tax.
No,
Okay.
does not. Yes, ma'am.
Is there like an age limit?
Excellent question. What's the age limit? We can go down to as low as age 30 or 40, depending on the company that we work with, and we're independent. And the highest limit is typically age 78, 79, depending on the company. But again, the higher I go up the age range, generally, the harder it is to qualify. The other question I get a lot is, Abe, we're married, I'm in bad health, my wife's in great health, we're not going to do anything. Why? Well, because we both can't get it. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Smith. If you're driving down the road and there's a big rainstorm and your windows are down, would you roll up your windows? Of course I would, Abe. But what happens if you can't roll up yours and you get wet? Would you want your wife to get wet by not rolling up a window? Doesn't make any sense for one person not to take it. In that situation, we would say maybe take more than you typically need, because we're not paying for, let's say, one spouse, because you're going to have to use your other assets to pay for the guy who's sick, who can't eligible, and go see deep and make a plan. Other questions? Yes, Harry.
Okay, you said that if you have retirement savings, when you have to take required minimum distributions, those funds are counted toward your funds, right, toward this Medicaid?
They're counted as income.
Counted as
That's income.
Income.
Let's say you have a Roth IRA where you do not have to make these distributions, then you can keep as much in those accounts as you can, and it doesn't affect this?
You're still going to be expected to take drawdowns. You're still going to, so based upon the IRS tables, you would still, Medicaid would require that that you would be taking those distributions, because otherwise they're going to count it as a resource, and then you're going to be ineligible. So it's either, if they say it's available, then it's a problem.
You're saying retirement accounts aren't resources until you make the distributions, though, right?
The distribution is income, but if you're not taking it, then it would count, yes. See, they want to put it in one bucket or the other, all right? It's going to either be income or resources. If you're not taking it as income, they're going to say, no, then it's available, So yeah, that's true with Roth IRAs too. And usually, if you're over age 70 and a half, you can just use the IRS tables. And if you're below, if there's a question, you might have to use some of the other actuarial tables to do the distributions.
Okay, so our session is over. Thanks for attending.
Thank you, everybody.
Any questions, let us know.